I was judging a book by its cover, and that's just how it goes sometimes. Hello my bookworms, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Sydney. Today we're going to be chatting about and tier ranking all of my recent reads from June and July. Before we get into the video, I want to thank today's sponsor, which is Book of the Month. Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers. Their mission is to support new and emerging authors and help us readers find books that we love. The team over at Book of the Month curates a list of 5 to 7 books every single month so that we as readers can discover new titles, new authors that we might have not found otherwise. Book of the Month has created an amazing community, especially within their app, where there are reading challenges with real rewards. Not only can you venture into new genres that you don't normally try, but also if for whatever reason the choices that month are not calling to you, you can pause that month at no extra cost and pick up the next month exactly where you left off. However, there are choices every single month for every type of reader, and this month is no different. 2 of the choices were 2 of my personal most anticipated releases of the year, and I cannot wait to dive right into them. My first choice was Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. This is a supernatural western that is happening amidst the upheaval of the Mexican-American War as a forbidden romance blooms, but can it survive all of the bloodletting? I read The Hacienda, which is this author's other book, at the beginning of this year, and I absolutely loved her atmosphere and storytelling. I cannot wait to pick up this book next. The next book is also one of my most anticipated, and it is Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is her adult debut, where our main character can predict to the day when someone will die. And this story is spanning the 3 days prior to a living wake for our main character, Flor, where it seems like she is not the only one with secrets. Like any great family reunion, this magical tale brims with buried secrets, quirky relatives, and above all, love. I am so excited to be holding both of these books in my hands. I cannot wait to read both of them. And again, if neither of these books sound like they're up your alley, click the link down in my description and use my code bookworm, and you can try one of the many other options they have as well. If you use my code, you'll get your first box for $9.99. And I hope that you all find a new book that you love as well. But in the meantime, let's get into the rest of the video. Alright, if you've watched any recent videos, you'll know that I had mentioned that I knew July was going to be a little bit of a rough month for me in terms of productivity / page count, because last month I was reintroducing a new old habit back into my life, which is writing. I'm trying to just write. Will what I write ever be published? I don't know. Right now I'm just trying to do it. I'm just trying to write and have a good time doing so. So I started that habit back up last month, and I'm learning how to integrate it back into my life. I knew that a July wrap-up would be pretty small, which it actually turned out to be okay. But I had previously made the decision to do a recent reads for June and July. So that's what we're doing here today. And we're gonna be a little bit cozy about it, because doing a recent reads sort of idea was a form of self-care. It was me not putting too much stress on myself, making it okay to join the 2 months together in this conjoined recent reads wrap-up. So we're leaning into it. I have made a matcha latte. We have no makeup on because my skin is a little bit tired. So therefore, we're gonna be doing a face mask today during the ranking of the tiers. And plus, I've had these for a couple weeks and I've just really wanted to use one. So we're just gonna do it today on the internet. While I get this ready and my hair out of my face, I'll tell you about my tiers. So I have 6 tiers in this tier ranking playlist, and all of the tiers might not make sense to a lot of you, and that's great. I hope that they don't. And let me tell you why. So if any of you know, there is a series on Netflix, like a skit comedy thing called I Think You Should Leave. And it's Caleb's favorite thing in the world. So by proxy, I have seen every single episode. This is not me recommending this show to any of you. I wouldn't recommend this show to anyone because it is bananas. For every 5 bad episodes, there's 1 really good episode. Like every episode has probably like 5 to 10 skits within it. And a lot of them are just bad. They're not good, but there are some that have super quotable lines, and I've taken some of those super quotable lines and made them into my tier rankings. So And let me say that this type of comedy is pitched as like panic attack comedy, right? Like it's uncomfortable. So again, I don't want any of you to come to me and say, Sydney, I watched I Think You Should Leave and it scarred me. Like I'm not recommending it to you, okay? But I'm hoping that there are some of you out there that will understand these tiers, and if not, it's okay. We'll get through it anyways. So my 5-star tier is He Must Have Flipped My Wife 8 Times. I'm not going into what the sketch details because this is a recent reads video. It's not a I Think You Should Leave leave video. But that quote felt fitting for 5 stars. 4-star tier is 55 burgers, 55 fries, and 55 tacos. I feel like at least some of these people might recognize because there are little audio bits going around on TikTok and Instagram of this series. So maybe some of you will know what this is, but regardless, that's 4 stars, all right? I'm not explaining it. 3 stars is 1 egg is 40 eggs. Again, it won't make sense, but that's the 3-star tier. 2 stars is because I saw that thing. And 1 star is I didn't know how to work the body. Ooh, she's juicy. If you're wondering, this is a pharmacy brightening coconut gel sheet mask, all right, with collagen. Very excited about it. Okay, and then I did DNF 2 books these past 2 months. So the DNF portion is what the hell, because he says what the hell like that. And it's great. So those are the tiers. Let's put this thing on. There's so much on this. Oh my goodness, we're dripping. Oh boy, oh boy. Oh, it has nose holes and everything. All right. My face isn't that wide though. Maybe it is. Oh my god. I really hope that this will stay on my face for the entirety of this video. Is this a look? Is it working? Fix my skin, please. Fix me. My face is that wide. Oh, that was deceiving. Okay. I don't know what to do with my hands. How long does it say? 10 to 15 minutes. Okay. All right, we're gonna do our best and we're gonna get started with the tier ranking. Okay, so first on the list, we have Brandon Sanderson, Warbreaker. This one, I think I ended up giving like 3.5 stars, so it's gonna go in 1 egg is 40 eggs. And my reasoning behind this is, I know that it's Brandon Sanderson's like older work. I know a lot of people feel similarly about his work, that he just got better as the time has gone on, which I don't disagree with. However, I really liked, what is it? Elantris by him, and I felt like that one was actually really strong. I liked Elantris way more than Warbreaker. I liked the magic system well enough, but there were only a couple characters that I actually really, really loved, and anytime we weren't with them, I was just sort of annoyed and wanted to get back to the parts of the story where we were actually following them. Of course, the last like 100 pages were very exciting, but again, overall, I just felt good about it, so I gave it a 3. The next one is Barbarian Alien by Ruby Dixon. This one I did a road trip vlog edition of Weird Words with Caleb, so we both listened to this audiobook together over the course of 2 days in the car, and we both actually gave it 1 star, so it's going in the I didn't know how to work the body category. I really didn't have a great time with this one. I felt like the first book was actually very fun, and we went a lot of places, we did a lot of things. In Barbarian Alien, obviously we followed 2 different people as our main characters, which is fine, but the overall arc of the story, like, we didn't do a whole lot. We were in one situation or one place for the majority of the book, and the writing overall just suffered. I didn't think that there was a lot of redeeming qualities about it, to be honest. Will we read more? Potentially. But this one we both just didn't really like. The next one is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This one I actually mood read this past month because I was invited to a ACOTAR dinner party, which was super fun, and I'm really excited to put those pictures that I took right here because I look not like that right now, and I want to remind you that I look okay most of the time. But it was super fun. Like, for example, the themed cocktail was called Tamlin's Tears. Like, it was perfect. But that being said, I had to read the final book because I knew that all of them had already read them all, and I didn't want to be the only one that didn't know what people were talking about. So I went ahead and read it. The longer that it sits with me, the more I actually like this book because I love a redeeming character arc. Nesta was not my favorite character for the previous books, and I really liked being inside her head. I liked, obviously, Cassian. I love him. And I loved the arc of, like, the Valkyrie, the woman warriors sort of things that go on. So overall, I think I was debating on giving it a 3.5 or a 4, and I think I will put it in the 55 burgers, 55 fries, and 55 tacos tier. Because all in all, like, it wasn't as exciting as ACOMAF and ACOWAR for me. That's A Court of Mist and Fury and A Court of Wars and Ruin. Wings and Ruin, oh my goodness. I didn't find this one as exciting as those ones, but overall, I actually did really enjoy my time reading it, especially in retrospect. So we'll leave it there for now. The next book is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. Thank God my air went off, so now you might actually hear me over the sound of my roaring house, and I don't have to shout. Okay, Delilah Green Doesn't Care. Let me just tell you that the reason I haven't read this book yet in my lifetime is purely because I don't like the cover. Like, I like the 2 main characters. I like their dynamic and I love how they look on this cover, but what I don't like about this cover is the font. I hate that font so much that it had made me literally not pick this book up. I was judging a book by its cover, and that's just how it goes sometimes. Because this book was great. There truly was so much to love about this book. I love the bisexual representation and obviously just the queer representation in general. Our 2 main main characters are Delilah and I think her name is Claire. Please tell me I'm right. Claire has a daughter and she owns a bookstore in the hometown that Delilah grew up in, but Delilah has moved away, I think, to New York City because she's an aspiring artist, photographer, and Delilah is back in town for her sister's, estranged sister's wedding. But our two main characters actually team up and they want to try to make the wedding not happen. Like, this guy is not good for her, sort of thing, and like they obviously fall in love and it's really, really great. I love Delilah Green as a main character, and overall the whole story I really liked. I think I gave it like a 4.5, but I think I would put it down in the 4-star category, but in my heart it's a 4.5, so it'll go in 55 burgers, 55 fries, and 55 tacos. Next book we have is True Biz by Sarah Novich. This one was my buddy read pick for my book club last month, actually. I've been wanting to read this book since it came out. Becoming fluent in American Sign Language is actually a goal of mine. I would really, really love to do that. And I took ASL for a semester in college, and learning about the deaf community in and of itself is just really, really awesome. I loved reading this book. I loved how the audiobook for it, which is really good, has when the main characters are signing in the audiobook, you physically hear like the rustle of their shirts and hands because the narrators are actually signing as they speak as well. The book has a lot of like educational points. It has a lot of pages that explain not only about the deaf community, but also like things how to sign them. And it was really great. The story itself obviously was phenomenal as well. I had a great time with it. There are a couple things about the ending of the story that I didn't love so much. I felt like some things were left off on cliffhangers, which didn't have to be because it's not necessarily even like a thriller or anything, you know what I'm saying? I feel like there could have been a couple more loose ends tied up, which is why I ended up giving it a 4.5, and I think it will also sit in the 55 burgers, 55 fries, and 55 tacos tier. It was a joy. It was a joy to read. I had a great time. The next one is The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. This one I did as a bonus buddy read for the entirety of the greenhouse over in June for Pride Month. And all in all, this is a young adult kind of queer coming of age story where our main character and her brother are switching schools because they're both having trouble in the school that they're currently at. So they're getting transferred to this more like rich, prestigious, mostly white school. They're worried that they're not going to fit in, but our main character was outed by her best friend at their old school. So people were giving her a hard time about being gay. So she's wanting to be sort of like not known in this new school. So she's trying to fly under the radar. And it's about that situation, how she finds her new friend who is out and proud, and she kind of learns how to grow into herself. And there's also a lot of good like familial dynamics that go on within the story. Some of it's a little hard to read and unexpected. You get glimpses of sets of parents that are very welcoming and accepting of their queer child. And we do also see the polar opposite. I really loved this book. It was a very quick read, and I think I feel very similarly about this book than I do to Weight of the Stars by Kay Ankrum as well. This is slipping off my face. Both of these books I would give strong 4 to 4.5 stars. And I know Weight of the Stars I read like a couple months ago, but the way that I feel about Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School is very similar to The Weight of the Stars as well. Both of them are kind of the same tier for me. Lots of 4 stars this month. All right. The next one is Decagon House Murders, and this one I pulled out of my Greenhouse Compendium jar in my Spin the Bottle game, I think 2 months ago, probably, yeah, for June. This is a classic Japanese murder mystery, kind of a retelling of And Then There Were None by, what's her name? Agatha Christie. This was kind of my first like mystery style book. I feel like this is falling off. It's nearing its end, nearing the end of its life. And the plot twists in the Decagon House Murders were great. The atmosphere was great. I actually have an exclusive reading vlog for the Decagon House Murders and Wayward by Amelia Hart over on my Patreon for my book club. Feel free to check out the link for my Patreon down below in the description if you would like to. But overall, I really liked it. I don't know if murder mysteries are necessarily my genre. I feel like they're a little bit slower than thrillers, and like I had a good time and the reveals were surprising and exciting, but overall, I don't know if I have the patience to like sit through and like watch the characters try to figure things out. I just kind of want to know why and how like now. I don't know if maybe I'm just too impatient for murder mysteries, but it was written really well and the story itself was pretty good. So I am giving it a 4 in 55 burgers, 55 fries, and 55 tacos. The next one I got is actually a book that comes out in October. This is an arc. It is Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. Finished this a couple days ago. I just wrote my Goodreads review for it. And basically, okay, so this book is pitched as a contemporary gothic fairy tale where there is this house called Starling House and there is a guy who lives there. His name's Arthur. He is the current warden of this house, but there's been a long lineage of people who own and run the property. And this house has a lot of like gothic sort of fairy tale eerie things going on around it, right? Arthur is not friendly with anyone. No one goes to this property for any any reason. And then our other main character is Opal, and she actually begins to start working at Starling House because of certain circumstances. And it's basically surrounding this whole situation of her working at this house, learning a lot about its weird history. There are actual monsters that live on and because of the property. And it's all very, you know, like paranormal-esque in a way. I liked it. All right, Alex E. Harrow is one of my favorite authors, and I liked this book well enough, but I think I was expecting a little bit more like eerie and gothic-y things. It's literally subgenred as horror. So I was excited to, you know, get a little creepy, get a little spooky, much like how I look right now, right? And it's not that it wasn't gothic. I think that I would consider it like cozy gothic, honestly, because it was more like cute and endearing than it was like creepy and eerie. And I wanted more of like the spooky things. So maybe it was just me putting my own expectations on it and then it not delivering to that, which isn't very valid, but it just played into how I enjoyed the actual book. Okay, this is coming off. Says to remove mask and massage remaining onto skin. Okay. Ooh, I feel so free now. Wow, I can like see. My whole peripheral vision is like available now. Okay, but yeah, like I said, it just felt a little bit like cozier than I thought that it would. Of course, I liked the writing and the story was interesting, but overall, I just felt good about it. I was never like on the edge of my seat. It wasn't a book that I was like, oh, I have to see what happens next. Like I have to sit here and read no matter what my obligations are. So I'm actually going to put it in 1 egg is 40 eggs, give it a 3.5 stars, but round down. I hope I don't look like an absolute animal. Okay, next we have Wayward by Amelia Hart, and this book was my buddy read pick for this past month, I think in July, and I loved this book. I freaking loved this book. It's a story that involves 3 women that are somehow linked across centuries. One of the timelines is involving witchcraft. Well, all of them involve some sort of like witchy stuff because they're all related in some way and they all have this like connection to the earth and animals. But another time period is more recent in history and it's almost like a thriller, like a domestic style thriller. And all of these are tied into this one story, and I had such a great time. The audiobook was really great. I actually gave this a 4.5 to a 5 stars, and I am putting it in He Must Have Flipped My Wife 8 times. I think the book could have been a little bit more witchy, but all in all, it'll probably be on my like honorable mentions for the year because I had such a great time with it. Next, we have The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. This is like a classic fantasy book, and it was so much fun. I hadn't heard about this book until one of my patrons, Heather, sent it to me, and she said that it's one of her favorite books ever. The new editions actually have a foreword by Patrick Rolfus that he also was talking about how this is his favorite book. Like whenever anyone asks, like this is his answer. And I could see why. The book was super whimsical, very fun, talking animals, talking companions. It's like the world's last unicorn is going on a journey to find the rest of her kin. And a lot happened. It was really great. I gave it like a 4 or 4.5 stars, and I think I'm gonna leave it in the 4-star tier as 55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 tacos. Because it just feels right there. It wasn't like this blew my socks off, but it definitely was better than 3 stars. The next book is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. Man, it feels like I read this forever ago because I kind of did. It is a literary fiction, contemporary fiction, whatever you want to call it. This is a book that is centered around mental illness, and our main character takes meds every day for her bipolar disorder, but she's not really able to like do her art anymore while she's on these meds. So she kind of decides to stop taking them and create a life that she can live with rather than have a life that she doesn't even feel like she's living. And it is following that situation of her being on meds and then no longer being on meds, and it's a little bit wild. She finds our other main character, Aldo, and they fall in love, but again, it's all very chaotic because transitioning off of meds can sometimes be very like just messy, I guess, for the person as well as everyone around them, and it really dives deep into both of those situations, how our main character is going through it, how it looks to her, and how it looks to everyone around her. It was a little bit hard to read, I'm not gonna lie, but that being said, it made me feel like it was written really well. Didn't really love the romance too much. I did like the conversations on Aldo's part about like the time and the math and like how he's really into bees and hexagons and everything like that. There were some things that I really did like, and again, I do think that it was written well. So I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5, so it's obviously gonna go in the burgers, fries, tacos tier again. The next one is Fourth Wing, and if you have seen my vlog on it, then y'all know how I already feel about it. And how I feel about it is that it is absolutely phenomenal, and I'll hear nothing else of it. He must have flipped my wife 8 times. I was really nervous going into it. I knew going into this book that I was either going to love it or I was gonna hate it. So many people said, Sydney, I don't think you'll like this. And then so many people also were saying, no, you'll love it if you go into it for a good time. So that's what I did. I went into this story for a good time, not being super critical, but even if I was being super critical, I honestly feel like I could have had the same experience. This book was so much fun. I cannot wait for the next book. I already pre-ordered it. There are very few things that I didn't like about this book. It is a 5-star read. I'll put the link down in the description for my reading vlog on it if you want to hear even more thoughts, but yeah, 5 stars, wow. The next one is Deep as the Sky, Red as the Sea. This one I regretfully have to put in the what the hell tier. I DNF'd this one. I'm more upset than anyone else because truly I've been talking about this book all year. I could not wait to get my hands on it, and maybe that was my downfall. This cover is stunning and I'm not getting rid of the book. It's kind of like a soft DNF. I think that I might try it again in the future, but it's basically like a pirate queen story, right? With that topic in mind, I thought it was going to be a little bit more, I don't know, piratey, and maybe it got pretty piratey, but I made it like maybe 100 pages in or so, and up until that point it was mostly just like weird political alliances forming and focusing on our main character's relations with other people, and it felt more like a weird slice of life story and not a adventurous pirate story that I wanted. I hope that makes sense because I don't really know how else to tell you. It just wasn't what I was expecting at all. So maybe if I go into it at a different time with a different mindset, maybe it'll be better, but I was just extremely bored and I am really upset about it. The next one is the new Lisa Joules book, which is None of This Is True. This one, I couldn't freaking put it down. I couldn't put it down. It was a train wreck and it was wild, and he must have flipped my wife 8 times, I swear. This book was wild. All through reading and finishing this book, I felt dirty, I felt gross, I felt a little bit icky, but gosh darn it, I could not put it down. And that hasn't happened to me in a while, especially with a thriller. So I had such a great experience reading this book. It was horrible. The topics in it, not the actual story, because obviously I'm giving it 4.5 stars, rounding up to 5. And I say 4.5 because why I took a half point off is a spoiler, so I'm not going to tell you exactly, but there is something not discussed entirely that happens within the storyline, and it was just kind of like left alone. And I don't know if it was left alone on purpose so that it would like lead to the unease feeling that the reader has, because it sure did leave me feeling uneasy, but I really kind of needed that situation's point of view or some sort of resolution from it in order to feel a little bit better, which I didn't get. So I'm giving it 4.5, but it's definitely like I rounded up to a 5. And then we have Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. I read this like literally 2 months ago. It's been a while. This one though also was 4.5 to 5 stars. He must have flipped my wife 8 times. This is another one of those multi-generational stories where we learn about the history of a certain family. It delves into a lot of like socio-political issues as well as the familial issues that are so close to home as well. And we have a brother and sister who, once their mother dies, they learn in a video will from her a lot of secrets that she kept from them their entire lives. And now they're like coming to terms with all of these new things. And we have multiple timelines, like we're following the present day, them finding out the secrets that their mother kept from them their whole lives, as well as glimpses back into what actually happened in these scenarios that they're learning about. And it is such an incredibly written book. I hold this book very highly. I thought it was absolutely great. I gave it 4.5 to 5 stars. The final book is Circe by Madeline Miller, which I tried to read and I also had to DNF it. It is in the what the hell tier because what the hell? This is a softer DNF than even Deep as the Sky, Red as the Sea, because I think that for whatever reason, mythological retellings, I have to be in the mood for it. I thought I could be in the mood for it, but as soon as I started listening to it, I listened to like 3% of it on audiobook. I was lost. I was like, I don't know what's happening. I don't even understand what I'm supposed to be understanding. So I determined that now was not the time to read this book, and I will just have to wait and see when that time will come up again, because it was not now. So it was a DNF, which is fine. But here is my final ratings for my recent reads of June and July. And that is all that I have for you today. So once again, thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget to check out the link in my description and use my code bookworm to get your first box for $9.99. And if you are still watching and you don't know what to say, leave the egg emoji down below in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. I always appreciate your support. And of course, be kind to one another and happy reading. Bye.